everybody, welcome to another review. Today is actually a review of a TV series screener that I was sent. I have never been sent a screener for a TV series before. This was really exciting for me. But here's the thing. When I got the email and I was reading the synopsis for the series, I had the biggest freaking smile on my face. I was so excited because I'm reading this and I'm like, oh my god, this show feels like it was made for me. Like it encompasses everything that I love and am obsessed with and believe in, and I immediately responded and I'm just like, yes, gimme. And a few days later, I get the screener, and I thought it was only going to be for the first 1, 2, maybe 3 episodes, because I know that that's usually how it works with some people, but no, I had access to the entire first season, and I was like, yahoo! And I got stuck into it. These episodes go for roughly 30 minutes each, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, and for me, who is an expert binger and marathoner, I could have knocked out all 12 episodes in a single day without breaking a sweat. This took me days to watch. And I'm going to get into why in this review. My excitement level was at 100. This review is not going to match that. This review is the exact opposite. This is what happens when having hope and excitement and a zest for life get thrown back in your face. Now, I mean no disrespect to any of the people behind this. These are just my personal feelings. This is just the things that I was thinking and feeling as I was watching this show. And that's how a review is. You give your thoughts and feelings, and that's all that I'm doing. So buckle up, it's about to get rough, because this is my first Kill It With Fire review for 2021, and potentially in well over a year. The last one I did was for the Dracula miniseries. It's been a while, but this qualifies, so let's do this. Linnea Quigley's Paranormal Truth is a 2021 12-episode docuseries directed by Jeff Sheldon and Victor Huesca and hosted by Linnea Quigley and co-hosted by Patrick Allen. From vampires, exorcisms, devil worship to supernatural hauntings, each episode will take you behind the myths and realities of these subjects, with interviews from leading investigators around the world. Paranormal Truth will delve into a world never seen before. I just told you how excited I was to watch this, that I read that synopsis and I thought, oh my god, this show was made for me. So imagine how disappointed I felt and still feel to have been utterly bored from the very first episode. I stuck with it though, gave it a chance to improve, but it never did. In fact, it got worse to the point I wasn't just bored, I was becoming angry at how poorly this was made and how poor some of the information was. My biggest gripe is the fact this is called Linnea Quigley's Paranormal Truth. Now, I know she's a producer, but it feels as though they were trying to sell this series off her name because she has absolutely nothing to do with it. To call her a host, frankly, is insulting to Patrick Allen. Linnea shows up for 30 or so seconds at the start and end. She's either reading cue cards or struggling to remember lines because everything she says feels horribly forced and poorly delivered. You may not even believe me, so here's the outro from episode 2 on demonic possession.
Well, I hope you find what you're looking for in your struggle with darkness. Whether you believe in demons or not. I exercise regularly. Unlike Linda, I'm Linnea Quigley, and you're watching Paranormal Truth.
The intro was even worse.
Is my makeup okay? Historical events reveal that demonic possession was present before Jesus Christ. And demons Who are they? Where are they? And what caused them to fade away in history? I'm Linnea Quigley, and you're watching Paranormal Truth.
Her little stunt has nothing to do with the episode. It's something Elvira would have done, but hers would have been good. A better version is to have that shot open with her already in the process of putting on makeup and then acting surprised by her audience as if we have interrupted a human moment, which is not what this was. It wanted to be, but it wasn't. These opening and closings are all we see of Linnea. After she does her intro, we're introduced to Patrick Allen, who welcomes us to Linnea Quigley's Paranormal Truth, and then he starts hosting, going over the subjects of that episode and the history of the topic in relative in-depth detail. He should be called the host, not Linnea, because she does nothing and gives us nothing, whereas Patrick gives us dates, names, details, historical events, and reports. Everything he says is interesting, and everything he delivers is what we're here to see and hear. But he's doing the same kind of butler pose, and he's so stiff and robotic in terms of body language, and everything he does is entirely done in front of green screen. Now, I admit after a while I got used to some of the green screen, but most of the time they're using the exact same ghostly type footage behind him, which actually kept pulling focus away from him, making it hard for me to pay attention to him. Not to mention the overuse of this same footage through every episode was getting boring, and also has nothing to do with most of the episodes. The overuse of green screen and visual effects in each episode takes a lot of the truth out of Paranormal Truth. It makes all the episodes feel staged and insincere. I would have found it much more captivating having him standing in a warehouse or walking through an abandoned building or in a dark wood. Real life settings that you don't have to pay for that create natural atmosphere would have elevated his delivery and the episodes themselves and made it feel more authentic. In each episode, we have roughly 3 or 4 introductions in the span of 2 minutes, and it is beyond infuriating. First, we have the opening title, which is nicely edited but has unnecessary sound effects included. It tells us the name of the show. Then Linnea Quigley shows up and introduces herself and the name of the show. During some intro, she introduces us twice. Something like, I'm Linnea Quigley and you're watching Paranormal Truth. Today we delve into yada 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 in this episode of Paranormal Truth. Fade to Patrick, whose first line every episode is, I'm Patrick Allen and you're watching Linnea Quigley's Paranormal Truth. Not 2 minutes have gone by and I've been told 4 times I'm watching Paranormal Truth, which was just ridiculous. He also introduces the series as a series of movies, which is odd since these are not movies, not even close. A lot of archival footage is used episode by episode, but there's not always the best context given to it, and the episode topics aren't explored as well as they could be. Sometimes they'll abandon the history of the topic or what it means in different countries or how it's represented in different countries to focus on one avenue, which is very narrow-minded and again means we're only getting half-truths, such as the episode on demonic possession. It focused the entire episode on looking at it from the Western perspective, even implying only the church can perform exorcisms, but none of that is true. Cases of demons and demonic possession happen all over the world, and exorcisms aren't something created by the church. The concept predates the church. Shamans, witches, feng shang-shi, which is basically an ancient Chinese exorcist. We can look at Hindu, Islam, even Buddhism, and you're going to find forms of exorcism exist in every single one. Yet this episode did not discuss any of that and instead only talked about demons from the Catholic perspective. It's frustrating since most demonologists will say, it's not about invoking the power of Jesus or Catholic or Christian God. It's about invoking a higher power and having faith and positive energy. So it doesn't matter what you believe in. If it is positive and you believe in it enough, you can use it to perform an exorcism. See, I just gave you more information than that episode did. During the first episode where they tackle the undead, specifically vampires and zombies, again, we're only given half the origins, mostly opting to discuss real-world vampires, which I admit at least they were given a chance to have a voice and shown they are as sane as you or I. But at one point, they show us footage of Anne Rice, and she just goes into a long-winded talk about how Louis was a version of her and how much she loves the character Lestat. Now, yes, we're hearing from someone who is famous for her vampire stories, but nothing she said told us anything about the origins of of vampires in the myths of the world. The structure of each episode got worse and worse, the editing was quite poor to boot, the flow from topics was quite scattered in an obvious way, and the way it sometimes leads into the next piece of footage was either poor or non-existent. Episode 3 on Satanism didn't drive enough into what a peaceful religion Satanism is, and it didn't go enough into the false claims by Christians on how Satanism is evil, and didn't go into how most crimes committed by people who claim to be Satanists are not in fact real Satanists and are not part of any organized religion. The episode started on that avenue and then abandoned it, which is a shame because the first half of the episode I absolutely loved. The rest, not so much. At least they had interviews with the creator of Satanism. Episode 4 tackles witchcraft, and as a former Wiccan, I was ready to get triggered. Now, they did speak accurately on the rebirth of modern-day witchcraft and talked briefly about the witch trials and people, mostly women who were falsely accused of witchcraft. What it didn't do enough of was dive further into the past on the origins of witchcraft and the status of types of craft around the world. It mentions it briefly, but again focused itself on the Western depictions of Wicca. Sometimes episodes have interviews with people who are knowledgeable on the subjects discussed, but we don't get enough background on some of these people to understand how credible they are to be speaking on the subject, and it would be nice to learn where they obtained a lot of their footage, much for the same reason. A lower third on the screen would have been enough to tell us that, but nope. Episode 5 talks about Devil's Gate Dam and the Suicide Bridge, and here's where my annoyance starts to develop. Now, I know about Devil's Gate Dam, I've seen many series tackle the subject, each far more detailed than this one, but that wasn't my issue. This episode introduces us to Victor Huesca, a self-proclaimed paranormal investigator who was listed as a series director. We see his investigation of Devil's Gate, and it was one of the worst things I've seen. We're never told enough about him, and from my own research, he doesn't seem to be an accredited paranormal investigator. He uses equipment that is never explained to the viewer. We are just meant to assume because it's science that it's hard evidence and trustworthy. But if I don't know what you're using, how it works, and why, then how can I believe it to be reliable? At times they would say they heard whispers or moans which sounded like nothing more than air moving through a tunnel, which is what they were in. They claimed they saw orbs, they appeared to be dust kicked up from their movements. Now, I am a huge believer in the paranormal, I've experienced it, and I'm a former Wiccan, but this stuff seemed unprofessional. During the course of this episode, the interactions between the two men made me want to slam my head into a wall. Dude, oh my god, did you hear that, dude? Dude, oh my god, I've got chills. Dude, did you see that? Dude, did you hear that? Dude, oh my god, dude, I'm so scared right now. That was how they spoke the entire time, and we all know people who talk like this, and it is infuriating. Little did I know, it would get worse. Moving on with each episode, we see more and more of Victor's investigations with his crew, a man whose name I think was Alex, and a woman I believe named Jasmine. Jasmine was also extremely annoying. Victor, I'm scared. Victor, I don't want to do this. Victor, oh my god. Victor, I don't want to be here. Victor, I don't want to do this. Victor, I'm so scared. Oh my god. You're going into supposed haunted locations. What were you expecting? If you're going to be that scared and whining all the goddamn time to the point I can't hear any of the alleged voices you're whining about, then you shouldn't be there. Moving forward, I never understood if these were people hired by the show, or was this random footage pulled from elsewhere. I got my answer while working on this review. I found Victor's Instagram, which led me to his YouTube, and I was shocked to see that every single video segment of his in each episode were nothing more than full-length YouTube videos pulled directly off his channel. Not even edited for the episode. They were the same length with his own editing for his YouTube videos, just taken from one platform and put on another. I could not believe how lazy and unprofessional that feels. A TV series using the YouTube videos of someone with, again, as far as I can see, with no accreditation with any parapsychology foundation, and a subscriber count of 2.2 thousand, and using them as the basis for more than half your episode is shocking and entirely unreliable. These videos have been edited before ending up on this show, so their authenticity comes into question for me. Victor and his team, for me, in most episodes act unprofessionally. They feel and act like YouTubers, not people who have studied for years in the field or part of any institution. Now, I could be wrong, these are just my feelings, and if I'm wrong, I truly apologize, but my feelings were solidified by episode 7. Episode 7 covers black-eyed kids and celebrity deaths. Patrick Allen opens with a hypothetical scenario where one might encounter a black-eyed kid. It only takes a couple of minutes of the runtime to tell us the scenario, and that is all the episode does to cover that subject. Doesn't dive into accounts or the phenomena, when it began, nothing, just one hypothetical. I learned more about black-eyed kids by watching a YouTube video over on Ready to Glare's YouTube channel than I got from this episode. So at the end, when Linnea says, "How about those black-eyed kids?" I was nearly screaming, "What about them? You didn't tell me anything!" The episode instead focuses on celebrity deaths, which as its own subject isn't actually paranormal. None of the people died by paranormal means. They were all tragic deaths, but nothing unusual. But to make it paranormal, we see what I now know to be Victor's YouTube videos playing, where he and his friends visit sites of celebrity deaths or their graves. This happens a few times. Now, I know many investigators or morbid people have gone to some of these locations, but professionals get permission and filming rights to do so. Other people get their asses booted from the locations when caught. They went to the home where Kurt Cobain killed himself looking for his ghost. They then went to the cemetery where Michael Jackson was buried. They went to the graves of so many people who have died tragic deaths, and I was not excited, I was disgusted. I love paranormal investigations, but the respect was missing. Going to these locations, most of which have little basis for haunting cases, to glorify and monopolize the tragic deaths of these individuals, most mediums wouldn't even do this without the blessing of the family. If I was the family of these people and knew people were taking their cameras to the places I've laid my loved ones to rest or any such thing, I would be positively livid. What makes matters worse, and why I use the word unprofessional, is because I feel these individuals lack one of the most important aspects of paranormal investigation: objectivity. If you're trying to find a killer, you study the evidence, you follow what the evidence tells you, and build a theory around that. That's not what they do. They go into each location strongly believing what they will find there, and so instead of analyzing the evidence to form a theory, they use the alleged evidence to back up a conclusion they came to before they got there. It's the same as an anti-vaxxer scrolling the internet for information. Many aren't looking for real information, they're just looking for that one site to validate their beliefs, and that's not how real investigations work. That's the first rule of what not to do. Skepticism is good, and you should have it. It keeps you neutral. Many demonologists who study hauntings go into any location, and their first objective is to rule out the normal. They assess all the findings and try to see if any can be tied to a normal logical experience. Once that is ruled out, then they move on to the paranormal. These folks don't do that. They use sound and video replays, but I never see what they claim to have seen in their replays, and while sometimes I hear a voice or a sound, half of them I admit sound like voices, but the other half sound like drafts or wind or buildings settling. I never see them looking for logical conclusions. They accept everything as evidence of the paranormal because it validates them, and that's not an authentic investigation. And for the record, I do have friends who are accredited investigators, and they were pretty annoyed with the info I shared. During their replays, they never slow down the footage or increase the sound to better hear what they claim they saw or heard. There is just a lot of information being withheld, and it makes me take everything I'm seeing with a grain of salt. These are YouTube videos. I don't know how doctored they are or not. I don't even know if they were made for YouTube and then used on the show, or were they made for the show but then posted on YouTube a year before its release. On top of that, Victor narrates his clips in this dull, monotone voice that doesn't get me interested in what he's saying. In fact, I don't remember anything that he said, really. In 2 episodes, these investigators go into a mausoleum. In one scene in episode 7, they say when they go to one area, they hear whispers in another room, but when they go to that room, the whispers are in the room they were just in. In episode 9, they mention the exact same occurrence in a different mausoleum. Common denominator? It's a giant building made of marble or granite. It's basically a giant echo chamber. They don't seem to understand the science of sound and how it travels, especially in a location like that. What they were describing wasn't paranormal in my opinion, but a natural occurrence of the sound traveling in a building constructed from a material that amplifies sound. While in this mausoleum, they point out a section of the wall. Now, I'm going to show you pictures of these walls and you're going to play a game. I sound like Jigsaw.
I want to play a game.
I'll show you the pictures. I want you to pause this video and comment below on what you think you see in the picture. Don't change your answer, keep it honest, but don't post the comment until the end of the video. Did you type your answer? During this scene, Victor says this mausoleum is called a gateway to hell. There seem to be a lot of those. He says how this wall, made of what I assume is marble, is clearly depicting the face of a demon, with a goat-faced horn demon perched on top and another demon on top of that. Proof that this place is a spot of evil. I don't know about you, but it took looking real hard to see what he saw, and even then I saw a million different things. I saw a large woman with her arms raised and standing between two mountainsides. Why am I saying this? Ever heard of the Rorschach test? If you've seen Watchmen or follow the comics, I'm sure the name rings a bell. The Rorschach test, or ink blot test, requires individuals to look at a picture of an ink splatter and say the first thing their mind registers in the picture. This was used to discern the sane from the insane. My point is, we all can look at the same abstract image and see 100 different images depending on the person. This man saw demons and devils because he was told prior to going in, demons and devils can be seen in the designs of the wall. He went in with an idea implanted in his head, so that's what he saw. This will go for any who venture to this location. If you are told you will see or experience something, you're more likely due to implanted suggestion. Whereas if no one knew about these demonic images in the natural formation of the stone, would you have seen it? Some I'm sure, but most I doubt it. This is another aspect that makes me not take them seriously, and something this series all about unveiling the truth doesn't tackle. It doesn't tackle human psychology or perception, or how our views can be influenced by pre-established knowledge or preconceived notions. If you want to give the truth on the paranormal, you have to give the full truth, even if that means debunking it. I'm not saying everything they saw or experienced was fake or a misconception. I'm saying the lack of skepticism or healthy objectivity and analysis of their paranormal findings was unprofessional and highly subjective and unreliable, to the point it shouldn't have been used for the basis of most episodes of a TV series. What broke me and officially solidified my dislike of the series was episode 10, The Cecil Hotel. Now, I just watched the Netflix special about the Cecil Hotel, and this episode even mentions it and uses its footage, and I can tell you the Netflix special at least took opinions from all sides. In a single breath, our real host Patrick talks about Elisa Lam saying her death to this day still remains a mystery. Then talks about how the coroner ruled her death an accident by drowning due to bipolar. That's not a mystery! That's case closed! They had no testimonials from professionals, just a couple of clips of conspiracy theorists who still to this day refuse to believe Elisa died by simple tragic accident. They want it to be paranormal or murder, with one man saying it is humanly impossible for a human to get up to the water tank. This statement is so stupid it hurts. If it's that impossible, how did the maintenance worker with no equipment manage to get up there with perfect ease to check the tanks and discover the body? How did every other fireman and investigator climb up there with ease? Was it magic? Also, since this is a water tank that provides water to the entire building, by law it has to be accessible for the purpose of maintenance. So again, this is just idiotic. I'm listening to an episode talk about how it's a case closed, but then try to validate the opinions of people who aren't experts and who didn't live it, who just read or watched it third hand on TV or the internet, and we're calling them experts? Elisa Lam's own parents and sister knew the moment they saw the elevator footage and were told she wasn't taking her meds, they knew they were seeing a bipolar episode because they had seen it before. They knew the signs, they knew her. My grandmother is or was bipolar. I have no idea if she's alive or not, but I have a better understanding of the illness, mostly because I spent most of my life afraid I would develop it. Before they even said anything, just looking at that footage, I didn't see anything paranormal. I saw a potential manic episode in full swing. But people who didn't even know her, who think they're smarter than professionals, are consumed with calling this more than an accident because what the fuck would her family know? This angers me because it is an insult to Elisa, an insult to her family, and an insult to all mental health sufferers who fight every day to be understood and not dismissed, and that's what people are doing. Bipolar is a bizarre illness that makes people say and do the most unusual things at times, and our minds can't make heads or tails of it, but to the individuals going through it, it makes complete sense. Take a look at how many people with the illness go missing each year because they run away during an episode and are never found again. Look up the woman in the US who was gunned down by police for acting crazy. She was an African American woman who suffered from bipolar who had recently gone missing. No one tried to help her or understand what was happening, instead they shot her. This was angering me the most about this episode. Now, yes, these are my personal feelings, but stating facts and then dismissing the very facts you state for the sake of conspiracy theories, which are more fun, is unprofessional and again goes against truth. But I can also criticize the structure of this episode, as with every other episode. The information and how it is presented is very discombobulated with a bad flow. They should have focused on Patrick hosting and presenting all the information and doing their best to insert first account interviews obtained themselves and not from third or fourth party hands. They have already been edited over and over again. During their episode on the Cecil Hotel, they talk about many famous criminals and crimes that had occurred at the hotel, and even talk a bit more about the history, but it first veered off to talk about the case of Elisa Lam and not the hotel, then the story of Richard Ramirez, and then the story of the Black Dahlia, even using a morning news interview from a network here in Australia, featuring Sonia Kruger, who she can fuck off. They kept veering off to focus on these individuals and their crimes and who they were as people, and completely forgot they're meant to be keeping the focus on the hotel. Is the hotel cursed? Is the hotel really hell on earth? Is it really haunted? Which the episode never did. It stopped the paranormal storyline and focused on the normal one, and then stopped focusing on the hotel entirely. In my opinion, the hotel may very well be haunted. A great deal of death and evil acts have been committed there, so I wouldn't be shocked if some spirits were lingering. But do I think it's a portal to hell? Absolutely not. I view it from a psychological standpoint. Again, keep in mind, I 100% believe in the paranormal. In the news, reporters are usually encouraged not to report on details of suicide out of fear that it will encourage suicide, as in the past that has been the case. When there have been reports of suicide, cases of suicide go up. I think that principle applies to the Cecil Hotel. One bad act occurred first, and it drew attention to the place. So the next person wanting to do drugs or commit murder or rape or suicide, well, they knew those things are common here. So it almost feels like a safe place for these people to act out these things. If you're a serial killer, are you going to go to the hotel notorious for crimes or go to the plaza? You go to what feels familiar, what feels like you could fit in or get away with what you're doing. So I think the infamy of the hotel has simply been built due to notoriety. The more we talk about something, the more we give it life and attention, the more power it has. The more it becomes a self-fulfilled prophecy. I think it's a breeding ground for negativity, and I think it does draw negativity to it, but I don't think that's because of supernatural evil. I think it's a man-made phenomenon, like suicide forests in Japan. People still to this day go there to commit suicide. Is it because spirits are telling them to go there? Or because people want to end their life and doing so in a location that welcomes the act and makes them feel more secure in the act itself? In my opinion, this was a terrible series tackling the truth behind the paranormal. It abandoned the truth a lot and left so much unexplored or unknown. The structure and presentation is chaotic and the sources unreliable. It feels disingenuous, especially due to the overuse of green screen and unrelated visual effects, and Linnea Quigley's forced intros and outros. The only positive I can say about this series is Patrick Allen. He had a soothing voice, he spoke clearly and concisely, and the majority of the time his information was solid and interesting. Had we had more of him in natural locations and we let him really lead this thing, I would have liked this a fraction more. But with all the other flaws, it wouldn't have been enough to save this. That being said, this 12-episode series is available on multiple digital sites, so if this subject interests you, then I still encourage you to check it out, because there is always the chance that you will enjoy it in ways I did not. Do not take my word as gospel, as I only speak for myself. A plane just flew overhead. It was very low. That was quite loud. I've never been more excited to watch a screener than I was when I got this. And it ended up being without a doubt the hardest thing I've watched in all my screener history. Now I've gotten things that were bad and I hated them, but I was able to get through them. This took a really long time because I'd get through like 20 seconds and then pause and start playing Matchmasters on my phone, which was way more entertaining. Anyway, That's it for this video. Let me know if you have any plans on checking out this series. If you have seen it, let me know. What were your thoughts on it? Did you have a completely different response to it than I did? Comment down below, let me know. You already saw the thank you, but I'll say it out loud. Thank you to my awesome patrons, and I hope to see you on my next video. So until then, bye!